Help me to reach 1,000 subscribers. Love you guys. The tale begins at the train station, where a bunch of lads are talking about Murata from the soccer team being shot down by the Ice Queen. One of them chimes in that this rejection marks number 15 for her. Another quips that if even Murata couldn't win her over, they don't stand a snowball's chance in hell. One boy glances at her and mutters that getting rejected by her expression alone would break him. As they watch another boy approach her, they whisper, "He's next." On the humid, swaying train, Minori Sada stands lost in thought. He notes the next stop but doesn't mind the heat. It's because of her, the Ice Princess, who boards from a certain station. Minori watches a boy trying to talk to her and realizes he's hitting on her first thing in the morning, but gets no response. Observing the situation, Minori thinks that occasionally someone tries to approach her, but they all end up defeated just like that. But let's be real, he wouldn't dare to even think about shouting out to her. It's probably because she radiates that celebrity-like aura, making it seem like they belong to parallel universes. As he gazes at her, he suddenly spots something intriguing. Just then, an elderly woman boards the train, but the lad is unbothered. The Ice Princess strides over, causing the boy to vacate his spot for her. But instead of taking the seat, she graciously offers it to the old lady, who gratefully accepts. Seeing this, Minori thinks, what a clear and soft voice. It betrays her cold atmosphere, revealing another side of her. One day, Minori notices a baby crying as his mother tries to soothe him. He thinks the baby is adorable. But then the child's attention shifts to the Ice Princess. She simply smiles at him. That smile, it captivates Minori instantly. From that moment, the urge to speak to her begins to grow, though he knows she'd likely dismiss him like everyone else. Still, he convinces himself he'll only admire her from afar until graduation, or so he thought. On another hot day, Minori notices a change in her expression. As he watches, he realizes a boy is harassing her. Surrounded by the crowded train, he thinks, despite all these people, her presence has always been a source of comfort. Then, recalling her smile, a dreadful thought crosses his mind. What if he never sees it again? The very idea fills him with anger. Without hesitation he shouts, "There's a molester." Hearing this, the offender panics and runs away. Later in class, Minori's friend, Mkasaka Aji, asks if he heard about the molester on the train that morning and if he knows anything about it. Minori denies it, but Aji smirks and teases him about how it's the train his so-called girlfriend rides. Minori quickly corrects him, insisting that just because he likes her doesn't mean she's his girlfriend. Aji chuckles, amused, and remarks that no one would be foolish enough to mess with the Ice Princess. Hearing her nickname, Minori thinks about her cold expression in different replies and how every confession ends in heartbreak. The rumors about her have even spread to other schools, solidifying her reputation. Yet, despite all that, he knows she isn't as cold as everyone believes. Aji continues, saying that if he were on the same train and something happened to her, he would step in without hesitation. He tells Minori that if she ever looks at him a certain way, he should do the same. It could be the start of something significant for him. He adds that youth isn't just about having a girlfriend, but Minori only sighs at his friend's dramatics. Aji then shifts the topic, grinning as he brings up how Minori watches her every day. Flustered, Minori brushes it off, claiming he's content with just looking. Letting it go, Ike suggests going to Korea and Minori agrees. As he heads home, he reflects on the day's events, thinking that tomorrow will likely return to normal. However, the next day's commute on the train proves to be a surprise. Noticing the empty seats, he recalls the previous day's incident. Suddenly, he hears a cheerful morning greeting from a girl, and he recognizes the crystal-clear voice as belonging to the Ice Queen. As he turns to face her, he finds himself sitting beside her, and he is taken back, unable to look away. She expresses her gratitude for his help the previous day, and he feels tongue-tied. She explains that she was frightened and that the people around her had given her disapproving glances instead of offering assistance. Her somber expression softens as she smiles, and he finds himself captivated by her charm. He feels a sense of pride in having protected her smile. She reveals that her formal demeanor is just a habit and introduces herself as a first-year high school student, assuming she isn't older than him. He hesitantly thanks her, admitting to himself that he can't converse normally in her presence. She notices his nervousness and asks if he usually speaks so formally. He reveals that he is also a first-year student, making them the same age. He realizes that he has only admired her from afar, and seeing her up close makes him feel motivated to attend school. She asks him for a favor, looking troubled. She explains that she'd like to sit beside him on the train because she's scared after a stranger touched her the day before. She's also intimidated by the boys at school who stare at her. He's surprised and asks if she's afraid of boys. She confirms her fear, stemming from the previous day's incident and the boys' behavior at school. After listening to her plea, he voices his reservations, highlighting the risks of trusting a stranger, especially a boy. He advises her to think critically about her decision and consider alternative solutions, such as seeking help from a trusted friend or classmate. However, she gazes at him with a melancholic expression, confessing that she has no one else to rely on. He's struck by her vulnerability and feels a surge of empathy. She places her hand on him, assuring him that she has faith in him and is willing to take a leap of faith. She explains that she's always desired a brighter future, but her deep-seated fear has held her back. She's willing to stake everything on him, and he's moved by her conviction. When he inquires about her reasons for choosing him, she responds that he's distinct from others, and she senses that she can confide in him. He's touched by her words and realizes that he cannot bring himself to reject her. He's aware that many people have been hurt by trying to get close to her, but he's glimpsed her compassionate side, and he doesn't want her to abandon her aspirations. Ultimately, he agrees to her request, promising to accompany her on the train. She expresses her gratitude and introduces herself as Shinaname Nagi, explaining that she's adopted and identifies as Japanese despite her appearance. He thinks her name suits her perfectly and introduces himself in return. She's ecstatic and shakes his hand, telling him that she'll be under his care from now on. From that day forward, his daily life undergoes a profound transformation. As he stands on the train, he recalls the morning he discreetly assisted the Ice Princess, whom he had secretly admired. Escaped from a harasser. This chance encounter led to them traveling together every morning. The next morning, as he boards the train, he reassures himself that this isn't a fantasy. When she enters the train, he approaches her and suggests they move to a less crowded area. As they find a quieter spot, she thanks him. He takes a closer look at her and thinks that his dream has become a reality. He reflects on her reputation as the Ice Princess earned from her poised demeanor and icy responses to unwanted advances. Despite her tough exterior, she radiates an aura of beauty and strength that inspires him. As they stand silently on the train, he thinks that she only asked him to stay by her side and initiating conversation might disturb her. However, she breaks the silence, apologizing for not speaking up earlier and asking if he's willing to chat. He responds by saying that she needs to gradually overcome her discomfort around men. She agrees and they begin a tentative conversation. When she asks what they should discuss, he admits that he's not experienced in such situations. She shares that she's unsure what to talk about outside of her family. He sympathizes, revealing that he doesn't often converse with girls. After a moment's thought, he asks about her hobbies. She smiles wryly, thinking that the question sounds like something from a matchmaking interview. She reveals her passion for Japanese traditional dance and her practice of tea ceremonies and flower arrangements. Impressed, he responds that her interests are quite remarkable. Given her refined hobbies, he thinks that her elegant demeanor is no surprise. When she asks about his interests, he humbly replies that they're nothing compared to hers. He mentions his enjoyment of anime and manga, which she surprisingly appreciates as fine works of art that evoke emotions and thoughts. As they approach her stop, she thanks him again and praises his kindness. He downplays his actions, but she smiles, saying that people who can perform simple acts of kindness are rare. As she exits the train, she bids him farewell, leaving him to ponder the unexpected conversation they shared. In class, the boys discuss Suzuki's rejection by the Ice Princess while the girls gossip about Murata's failed attempt to win her over. Naji sits quietly thinking about her past struggles with guys and wondering if she's simply bad with both men and women. However, her thoughts shift to Minori, who showed her kindness that morning. She recalls feeling his gaze on her, but it was different from the way others looked at her. Just then, she overhears a boy suggesting that he might confess to her, prompting her to think about escaping to the library. Girl, Hayama Hikaru, intervenes, scolding the boys for their loud voices and asking if they're not embarrassed. The Ice Princess watches as Hayama sends the boys away, then winks at her. During lunch, Hayama approaches the Ice Princess and asks to speak with her privately. They step outside and Hayama apologizes for pulling her away, explaining that it's hard to discuss sensitive topics in class. Shainame-san asks what's on Hayama's mind and she reveals that she noticed her stare earlier. The Ice Princess apologizes, explaining that she was simply grateful for her health this morning. She smiles, relieved that her concerns were unfounded. The Ice Princess thanks her again, and she expresses her gladness that she wasn't mistaken. The next morning she shares the story with Minori, who responds with a smile. However, she's confused. It's the first time someone in her class has been kind to her. He suggests that she simply accept the kindness, but the Ice Princess reveals that she doesn't trust easily. He apologizes, remembering her earlier confession that she has no one she can trust. He thinks to himself that there must be a reason why she has no friends, and it sounds terribly lonely. He wishes he could say something to comfort her. He shares a story about his friend AG, who didn't have many friends initially. However, they bonded over a lost wallet and their friendship grew from there. He concludes his story and she listens intently. He then acknowledges that the world is filled with unfriendly people, but emphasizes that there are kind individuals too. He asks her why she can't trust someone again. She's taken aback by his words and wonders why he's going out of his way for her. He reflects on his motivations, realizing he can't reveal his desire to see her smile. Instead, he explains that he wants her to experience the joy of connection, sharing his own story of how his friend changed his perspective on friendships. However, he instantly regrets his words, thinking that he's imposing his desires on her. He apologizes and tries to downplay his previous statement, asking her to forget about it. She reassures him that it's fine and encourages him not to look so gloomy. She suggests that she might give his words a try and asks him to be there for her if anything happens. As they prepare to part ways, he inquires about her safety, offering to accompany her home. She's surprised by his offer but graciously accepts. They discuss their train schedules and he discovers that they take the same train home. As they bid each other farewell, she confesses that she's had a surprisingly enjoyable time with him and looks forward to their next encounter. He reciprocates her sentiment and they part ways, both anticipating their next meeting. In the evening, as she enters a train, she spots Minori-kan waiting for her. A familiar smile on his face. As they settle into their seats on the train, she remarks on the unusual hour of their encounter, noting that it's been a while since they've met at this time. He asks about her conversation with her classmate, inquiring if they've become close. She sets him straight, explaining that while they're on good terms, their relationship doesn't quite qualify as friendship. He's curious about the distinction and presses her for an explanation. She playfully deflects his question, leaving him to ponder the difference between friendship and just knowing someone. He asks again, but she hushes him, calling it a secret. He finds her reaction adorable. As the train rolls on, he asks about her stance on confessions. Her response is certain. She's not interested. She explains that the guys who've mustered the courage to confess have been, in her opinion, utterly unsuitable. Minori listens intently, sensing that there's more to her story than she's letting on. He wonders aloud if there's a reason why she struggled to form meaningful connections with her peers. Is it something about her or is it a result of the people around her? She turns the tables, asking if she can repay him for his kindness. He objects, insisting that no repayment is necessary, but she's insistent. When he asks about her academic prowess, she reveals that she's a high achiever with one notable exception, English. His raised eyebrow prompts her to tease him about his surprise, and he acknowledges that everyone has their weaknesses. The conversation flows easily and he finds himself feeling more and more at ease in her presence. She opens up to him about her struggles with English, revealing that she felt overwhelmed when a foreigner asked her for directions. He listens attentively, pointing out that people likely assume she's proficient in English due to her academic excellence. He asks about her knowledge of Japanese classics, and she replies that aside from English, she's strong in all subjects. He requests her help, asking if she'd be willing to tutor him, and she agrees, saying he can count on her. As they approach her stop, she comments on how quickly the time has passed and he walks her to the door. As they part ways, he's struck by a feeling of emptiness. The next day they meet again on the train and she begins teaching him. She's impressed by his rapid progress, and he credits her effective teaching methods, as she breaks down complex concepts into simple, easy-to-understand language. He finds himself drawn to her patience and clarity. Her closeness is distracting, and when their hands touch, he's captivated by her scent. She interrupts his reverie, asking if he's grasped the concept. He apologizes, admitting he didn't quite follow, and she offers to explain it again in simpler terms. He's aware that his heart is racing. Later, alone in her room, Nadi smiles as she reminisces about the fun day. As she settles into bed, she thinks about preparing for the next day, only to realize it's the weekend. A smile creeps onto her face as she thinks about wanting to see him. She blushes quickly, justifying her thoughts as mere friendship. She reflects on how Minori-kun is unlike anyone she's ever met. He's kind to her without any ulterior motives, seeing her for who she truly is. His presence makes her feel at ease. She thinks about organizing a group study session, hoping to spend more time with him. She wonders if he'd accept her invitation. As she drifts off to sleep, she recalls her parents' words when they asked her to join their family. She opens her eyes, scolding herself for being foolish. She vows to give her all, just as she has for the two people who saved her. On Monday morning, he notices she's acting strangely. She catches him staring and asks what's wrong. He says she seems more distant than usual. She denies it, her expression unreadable. As he picks up on some weird vibes, he can't help but feel like she's distancing herself right when they were finally hitting it off. He reassures her that he'll always be there for her and never break her trust, pleading for a chance to keep his promise, even though he's clueless about what's going on. And there she is, gazing at him with sorrowful eyes, saying sorry for creating distance. She reveals that her father taught her to never show weakness to others, a lesson she's respected until now. Since meeting him, she's found herself changing, her mask beginning to crack. She started to smile more, showing her vulnerable side. He understands how she earned the nickname Ice Princess. She mentions that she's changed since meeting him, and her true self is starting to emerge. She thought she should keep her distance, but his words touched her heart. He asks if it's exhausting to always hide her true self. She says she must bear the burden to become like her father. He tells her he prefers the real her, not the Ice Princess too sad. He wants to see her true self, and his words make her heart skip a beat. She smiles, promising not to put up a front around him anymore. As she gazes into his eyes, she feels lost in his words, her heart filled with a sense of freedom. The next day, Eiji approaches Saad with a serious look, revealing two unsettling pieces of news. When Sa asks why, Eiji hints he'll be surprised. In a quiet tone, he shares that the Ice Princess might be in a relationship, citing a witness who saw her close to a male student on the train. Eiji is stunned by Saad's calm reaction, but Saad simply suspects the rumor is about him. Curious, Eiji asks if he's recently started dating. Sa playfully dodges the question, amused by his friend's sudden interest. Eiji explains that Saad's cheerful mood and the faint scent of perfume haven't gone unnoticed. Laughing, Sa teases him and insists they're just friends, though he values their bond. Eiji presses further, pointing out his unusual behavior and asking if he has feelings for her. He denies having romantic feelings for her, but Eiji just chuckles, saying his emotions are easily readable. Eiji's expression turns serious, and he asks if he's certain he's not being deceived. He thinks that Eiji is genuinely concerned, but he believes she has no reason to mislead him. Since she trusts him, he wants to reciprocate that trust. He expresses gratitude to his friend for the warning, but assures him that he'll be okay. Eiji inquires if he genuinely believes he has a chance with her, to which our lad responds that they're not even close to being a suitable match. Eiji presses on, asking if he's certain, mentioning that perhaps she reserves a special expression just for him. He recalls her blushing face and denies it. His friend teases him, saying he's terrible at deception. He shifts the conversation, asking Eiji about the other piece of bad news. His friend's expression suddenly turns gloomy, and he reveals that he and Kira are in trouble for the upcoming test. He mentions that his girlfriend, Nishisawa Kurika, is also struggling. He warns that if they fail, they'll have to repeat the year and suggests that they should have a study session together. He offers to host the study session at his house since he lives alone and proposes that they study for 2 days to ensure they're prepared. Eiji's face lights up with excitement, and he exclaims that Saad is a lifesaver. He downplays his friend's enthusiasm, saying he's exaggerating. He tells Eiji that he'll text him later to finalize the plans. On the train, Shinaname asks him if they can have a study session that weekend. He thinks to himself that this is really putting his heart to the test. When he remains silent, she asks if he has other commitments. He assures her that he's free but only for 1 day. She smiles, saying that he beat her to suggest it. He pulls out his phone, intending to discuss the study session with Eiji, but she stops him. He expresses regret, saying it's unfortunate, but perhaps they can't make it work this time, and apologizes. She looks disappointed and comments that the timing is simply bad. Observing her expression, he thinks to himself that he's surprised she's taking the blame. He attempts to persuade her to reconsider, suggesting that she speak with Eiji and the others. However, she declines, stating that if they're his friends, they're not hers. This unexpected response catches him off guard. She assures him that she'll make it up to him and asks him to let her know when he's available. She promises that even if it's last minute, she'll definitely follow through. As her stop approaches, she bids him farewell. The following Monday, after the study session with Eiji and his girlfriend, Manori meets up with her again. She inquires about his weekend, and he explains that they studied intensively. He thanked her, saying that her guidance helped him teach AG and his girlfriend effectively. She remarks that his gratitude is proof that he was paying attention. He suggests that they study hard together that day as well. He offers to assist her with English, acknowledging that she struggles with the subject. She asks if he's sure he's willing to help, and he assures her that he's proficient in English. Her face lights up with a smile, and he thinks to himself that it's wonderful to see her smiling more often lately. As he begins teaching her, she leans in closer, discussing topics she'd like to explore. He notices that she's standing closer to him than she was the previous week. He cautions her that a particular concept might be challenging to grasp when translated. She assures him that she understands now, and as she gazes at his confused expression, she stumbles even closer, asking if he's feeling unwell. Minori feels his face flush with embarrassment and nervousness. She gazes into his eyes and Minori thinks to himself that she's not pulling away. Instead, she rests her head on his chest and comments that it's warm. The sudden sound of his phone's notification interrupts the moment, and she quickly stands straight. She remarks that it was incredibly cozy, and he thinks to himself that this girl is unusually honest. He glances at his phone where he sees a text from EG. His friend invites him to join him and his girlfriend Karika for parfait. The next day, Minori responds asking if he wouldn't mind his girlfriend having parrots with another guy. His friend reassures him that it's okay since it's him and he wants to thank him for the study session as well. Shinaname notices his smile and comments that he looks happy. He admits that he's a little happy. She asks if she can inquire about the reason behind his happiness, and he explains that his friend invited him to have parfaits with his girlfriend. He adds that his friend isn't fond of sweet treats and his girlfriend enjoys socializing with others. Shinaname replies that she might be similar to Hayama in that regard. He mentions that his friend invited him as a way of thanking him for the study session. However, he tells her that he plans to decline the invitation. He had promised to spend time with her after school after all. She insists that it's fine if he goes, saying that he doesn't have to go out of his way for her. She proposes that they reschedule for later considering it's exam season and she's already notified her family that she'll be returning home late. He inquires if she's truly comfortable with this arrangement and she affirms with a smile telling him to prioritize his friendships over their plans. He reflects that if she phrases it that way implies he's still not a significant presence in her life. She requests that he notify her once the details are finalized. The following day Nori informs her on the train that he expects to finish up within 20 to 30 minutes, and they can reconnect on the same train later. However, she unexpectedly ends up at the cafe where he's meeting Kika. She hadn't expected to run into him here, especially since it was her first time visiting. Seeing him, she feels eager to talk to him soon. She arrives at the cafe and thinks that sharing the experience with Minori-kun would have been more delightful. Inside, he's indulging in Mont Blanc parfait with Kurika, who expresses gratitude for his help over the weekend and treats him to dessert. He jokingly remarks that they'd better not fail their exams after intense studying. Just then, Shinaname enters the cafe and thinks to herself that she has desired to accompany him. She recalls that it wasn't long ago that she established boundaries in their relationship. As she observes him with Kara, she thinks that her presence might cause him undue stress, especially since she's the one who permitted him to meet up with his friend. She tells herself that it's best to depart. As she exits the cafe, she reflects that she can't restrain him for her own benefit. A tinge of sadness washes over her, and she wonders what's amiss, considering she hasn't previously felt this way. At night, she convinces herself that sleep is simply not on the agenda for tonight. The memory of that heartbreaking scene causes her heart to ache. In a classic case of self-blame, she declares herself to be the ultimate villain in this drama. The following day on the train, he casually mentions that exams are starting and he's feeling pretty confident, all thanks to her study help. However, she's too caught up in her thoughts to pay attention to his words, prompting her to quickly apologize for zoning out. Little does she know, he's puzzled by her recent strange behavior and wonders if he's somehow upset her. He then imagines how he would feel if the roles were reversed and she was seen having lunch with another guy, deciding that he would definitely feel a twinge of jealousy as well. At school, she's busy with her work, looking sad. Hayama approaches her and asks if she can lend her some of her time. She agrees and accompanies her friend. Outside the classroom, Hayama asks her what's wrong. She replies that it's nothing. Her friend then points that she's in love, which shocks her. Her shocked expression amuses her friend, who comments at her flushed face. Shinaname admits that she was just a little surprised. Ayana repeats her question. and inquires if she fought with her boyfriend. She surprisingly reveals that he's not her boyfriend. Hayama laughs and teases her about her expression. She composes herself and offers a playful apology, claiming she was simply caught off guard, but actually thrilled. Her pal grins and reassures her that even robots have their moments. Shinoname pouts in response, prompting Hayama to remind her that she too is just a regular human full of all the messy emotions and feelings. Hayama's smile widens as she confirms the rumor of her conversation with a male student on the train. She then requests that she share her romantic story with her, suggesting that bottling up her emotions might have consequences. Shinoname considers her friend's trustworthy nature and decides to confide in her. She begins to recount her experiences with him, including the aspects that have been troubling her. Her friend listens intently before interjecting and pointing out that Shinoname is deeply in love, and it seems that this is her first romantic experience, leaving her feeling perplexed. Her friend asks her if her heart has ever skipped a beat when she's around him. She reminisces about the moment she hugged him and acknowledges that her heart did indeed flutter. She reveals to her friend that being near him brings her a sense of comfort and reassurance, dispelling her anxiety and nervousness. Even the emotional barriers she's erected begin to crumble, and she forgets the lessons her father taught her about maintaining a guarded demeanor. Hayama's expression turns thoughtful, and she suggests that her feelings might be more akin to a deep attachment rather than mere love. She also points out that her discomfort with him being close to other girls is a telling sign of her strong emotions. Her friend advises her to set aside her feelings for the time being.